Stop everything you're doing, because what just went down in the courtroom has the entire hip-hop world in shock. Drake, the so-called certified lover boy, just watched his entire legal dream team get absolutely cooked by a judge who wasn't buying a single word of their carefully polished arguments. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse for Drizzy, Kendrick Lamar walked in with receipts so devastating that the entire courtroom gasped in disbelief. Imagine this. Drake sitting there in his tailored designer suit, smirking with that trademark arrogance, convinced his lawyers could smooth over every scandal, every lie, every shady deal. But within minutes, the judge shredded their defense line by line, calling out misleading statements, fabricated evidence, and outright dishonesty. The gallery erupted. Social media was instantly flooded with #DrakeLied trends, fans posting shocked GIFs, and memes that painted him as the biggest fraud in hip-hop. But here's where it gets. Really bad Kendrick wasn't just a spectator. According to leaked insider reports, he had been quietly preparing to expose Drake for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And when Kendrick stood up and dropped the truth, the courtroom turned into a circus. Gasps, shouts, and one phrase echoing in everyone's mind: Drake is finished, and trust me, what Kendrick revealed wasn't just damaging, was career-ending. But before I tell you what that bombshell was, let me take you back to how this feud spiraled out of control in the first place. This wasn't just some random courtroom clash. No, this was the culmination of years of whispers, rivalries, and behind-the-scenes feuds that finally burst into public view. To understand why Drake found himself cornered, exposed, and humiliated in front of a live audience of media, fans, and even rivals, you have to go back, way back to the roots of his messy entanglements, and the way he's always danced between truth and lies. Drake built his empire on image. To the public, he was the charming superstar, the Toronto king who could spit bars, sing ballads, and melt hearts. But behind the glittering lights, industry insiders had long whispered that everything about Drake's empire was carefully manufactured, from his lyrics to his feuds to his so-called innocence in scandals. And nobody, absolutely nobody, despised that more than Kendrick Lamar. See, Kendrick has always been the anti-Drake. Where Drake is polished, Kendrick is raw. Where Drake leans into calculated PR, Kendrick relies on raw truth bombs. Their feud didn't start overnight. It began with subliminal shots in verses, escalated with public jabs, and hit boiling point when Kendrick called him out directly, labeling him fake, soft, and a master manipulator hiding skeletons in his million-dollar closets. But what really set the stage for this courtroom showdown wasn't just rap beef, it was legal chaos. Drake's team had been under fire for shady deals, questionable contracts, and behind-the-scenes payoffs. Lawsuits were stacking up, accusations of fraud were flying, and fans were already side-eyeing his empire. The moment the case hit the courtroom, the world knew the stakes were higher than ever. If Drake lost this, his career, his image, his empire could all come crashing down. Now picture this: the judge, stern and unshaken, flipping through stacks of evidence. Drake's legal team men in expensive suits, sweating through their collars, scrambling to maintain the illusion of control. They argued hard, spinning their narrative with dramatic flair, but every sentence they spoke seemed weaker, more desperate. And the judge wasn't having it. With each rebuttal, she slashed through their words, pointing out inconsistencies, exposing contradictions, and making it clear that Drake's so-called airtight case was nothing more than a web of lies unraveling in real time. But here's the kicker: Kendrick was in the room, not just as a rival, but as a silent predator waiting for the kill. Fans online had speculated for weeks: why was Kendrick attending hearings? Why did insiders report him meeting with Drake's accusers? And then it hit, theories exploded. Kendrick wasn't just here to spectate. He was gathering ammunition, waiting to strike, waiting to catch Drake at his weakest moment. Social media receipts back this up. One leaked DM, allegedly from someone inside Drake's circle. Read, "We told him not to let Kendrick anywhere near this. He doesn't come to court unless he has something nuclear." Another so-called insider confessed. Kendrick's been keeping tabs on this case. He wants Drake buried, and buried he would be. Because while Drake's lawyers thought they were battling the prosecution, they weren't ready for the wild card. They weren't ready for Kendrick Lamar to stand up, clear his throat, and expose the lies that Drake had been hiding for years. The world wasn't ready either. Fans who once defended Drake's every move suddenly found themselves choking on the reality that their idol's empire might be built on nothing but manipulation and fraud. But let's not forget this. Feud has always been personal. Kendrick never forgave Drake for the subtle shots, the arrogance, the way Drake dismissed him as too conscious or too serious. To Kendrick, this wasn't just a legal battle, was justice. It was karma. It was a chance to peel back the mask and reveal the insecure, desperate man hiding behind OVO logos and Instagram filters. And now, with the world watching, the judge dragging Drake's team across the floor, and the gallery buzzing with shock, Kendrick saw his opening. The moment that would change hip-hop history forever. But what exactly did Kendrick expose? What words came out of his mouth that had people gasping, lawyers stammering, and Drake clutching his face in disbelief? You're about to find out. Because the first twist in this saga wasn't just shocking, it was catastrophic. And once I tell you, you'll understand why fans are calling this the end of Drake's legacy as we know it. The courtroom was already tense. The air so thick with suspense, you could practically hear the heartbeat of every person inside. Drake leaned back in his chair, trying to look unbothered, but his eyes darted nervously toward the judge. His lawyers whispered furiously, flipping through binders, shoving papers at each other. And then, just as the defense tried to salvage the sinking ship, the door creaked open, and in walked Kendrick Lamar, not with an entourage, not with cameras flashing. Just Kendrick.com collected, his face unreadable. The room went silent. Even the judge paused, eyebrows raised. Drake's smirk evaporated instantly. It was as if his worst nightmare had just materialized in human form. Kendrick wasn't supposed to be there. But not only was he present, he was prepared. One insider later leaked. The second Kendrick entered, Drake's whole vibe shifted. You could see the panic. Another claimed his team wasn't briefed. Nobody expected Kendrick to show up with documents in hand. That's when we knew Drake was finished. The prosecution nodded at Kendrick, almost like they'd been waiting. And in that instant, the tables turned. Kendrick was called to speak not as a rapper, but as a witness. The audience in the gallery leaned forward, phones buzzing in their pockets with Twitter notifications that read, "Kendrick just entered court. Hashtag Drake trial, hashtag lies exposed." Double quotes. Kendrick stepped up, pulled a folded stack of paper. Drake's face went pale. He leaned toward his lawyer, whispering urgently, his hands trembling. But it was too late. Kendrick kept reading. Line after line exposed the inner workings of Drake's empire. Fake narratives crafted by PR, ghostwriters silenced with payouts, witnesses pressured to change their stories, deals struck in the shadows. And every revelation hit harder than the last. One email read, "We can't let this leak. If people find out, it's over. Adjust the narrative and pin it on the label." Another, "Kendrick is digging. Shut it down before he finds the receipts." And then, most damning, "If this gets out, Drake's career is done." The courtroom erupted. People shouted. Reporters scrambled to type updates. Fans in the gallery covered their mouths in disbelief. Twitter went nuclear. Hashtags like hashtag Drake exposed hashtag Kendrick the truth. And hashtag Drake lied shot to the top of global trends within minutes. Memes flooded the internet, showing Drake sweating, Kendrick holding papers, and the judge shaking her head in disgust. But Kendrick wasn't finished. He lifted his eyes from the papers and looked directly at Drake. His voice was calm but deadly. You built your empire on lies, and the world deserves to know the truth. Drake slammed his fist on the table, shouting, "This is fake. It's all fake." His lawyers scrambled to object, waving their hands, demanding Kendrick's words be stricken from the record. But the judge leaned forward, eyes narrowed, and delivered the blow of the day. "Mr. Graham, sit down. If even half of this evidence is true, your entire defense collapses. And if you knowingly submitted falsehoods to this court, the consequences will be catastrophic." The gallery gasped again. Drake sat down hard, burying his face in his hands. At that exact moment, an alleged insider tweet leaked. A verified journalist posted, "Sources confirm Kendrick obtained the emails from a whistleblower inside Drake's camp. This is bad. Hashtag courtroom drama. Fans split instantly. Some screamed betrayal. How could Drake do this to us? Others defended him blindly. This is a setup. Kendrick is jealous. But the louder voice, the one dominating the internet, was clear. Drake had been caught. One viral TikTok stitched Kendrick's phrase. The lie stopped today with clips of Drake looking devastated, racking up millions of views in hours. Instagram flooded with comments like, "Certified liar boy," and "OVO equals, obviously, very off." And yet, the first twist hadn't even landed fully. Because as the judge called for order, Kendrick delivered one last line that sent the room spiraling into chaos. "This is just the beginning. The lies go deeper than you think." The room erupted again. People screamed questions. The judge banged her gavel furiously. Drake's team begged for a recess. But Kendrick calmly stepped back, papers in hand, his expression unshaken. He had dropped the first bomb, but everyone could feel it in their bones. More was coming. Backstage, whispers flew. TMZ reported that Drake stormed out of the courtroom during recess, shouting at his team, visibly shaking. One insider claimed he yelled, "I told you to bury this." How did he get it? The leak was undeniable. Kendrick had cracked open the dam. The flood of truth was about to drown Drake completely. Fans outside the courthouse screamed for Kendrick, chanting his name, holding signs that read "King Kendrick" and "Truth greater than lies." Meanwhile, Drake's fans looked crushed, some even crying on live streams, admitting they felt betrayed. But what nobody realized in that moment what made the first twist truly catastrophic was that Kendrick wasn't working alone. There were whispers, hints, that another powerful figure had joined forces with him to dismantle Drake's empire from the inside. And when that name surfaced, it wouldn't just shock the courtroom, it would shatter the industry. The courtroom was still buzzing after Kendrick's bombshell. Reporters scrambled, cameras flashed, and the hashtag Drake lied had already hit #1 worldwide. But just as people thought the storm had peaked, the skies darkened even more. Because Kendrick wasn't finished. He had come armed with something bigger, something that would drag Drake not only through the mud of scandal, but through the fire of betrayal. It started with a whisper. An insider sitting close to the front claimed to hear Kendrick mutter, "He thought I was alone. Nah, I brought help." The gallery perked up. Social media accounts exploded with live updates. Kendrick just hinted he's not the only one exposing Drake. Who else is involved? The answer came minutes later. Kendrick stepped forward again, his voice calm yet heavy with weight. "I said the lies go deeper. And I wasn't lying." Because it turns out, Drake's not just hiding behind his lawyers. He's been hiding behind his friends, his collaborators, even his idols. He paused. The silence was suffocating. Then he said a name. Jay-Z. The crowd gasped as if the air had been punched out of their lungs. Drake's head snapped up, eyes wide. His lawyer nearly dropped his pen. Kendrick continued. Emails showed Drake's team reaching out to major industry figures, begging for cover, begging for silence. And one name that kept popping up. Sean Carter. Yes, Jay's. And the evidence shows Drake tried to use him, tried to manipulate him, to make this all disappear. The room erupted again. Journalists sprinted to get the scoop online. Headlines popped up instantly. Did Drake drag Jay-Z into his lies? And Jay-Z caught in Drake court scandal? But Kendrick wasn't done. He held up his phone and, with the judge's permission, played an audio recording. The grainy clip echoed through the courtroom, and everyone froze as a voice unmistakably belonging to Drake hissed. "We can't let this get out. Call Jay. Tell him we need him on this. Hose me. He can't let Kendrick win." The gallery exploded. Drake's face crumpled, his lawyers scrambling, shouting objections, but the judge overruled them. "If that is authentic, it stays," she said firmly. And then came the twist within the twist. Jay-Z himself issued a statement within the hour. A simple, sharp tweet from his verified account. "Don't drag my name into your lies. Stand on your own." Boom, the internet lost its collective mind. Memes of Jay-Z washing his hands of Drake flooded Twitter. Instagram lives with fans screaming into their phones hit record numbers. TikTok edits layered Kendricks.com line the lie stopped today over Jay-Z's brutal tweet. Drake's empire was crumbling in real time, but Kendrick wasn't. Finished, he had another card to play. He revealed screenshots allegedly leaked from group chats between Drake and his own team, where Drake mocked his fans for believing his narratives. One message read, "They'll eat up anything we say. As long as the music slaps, they won't care. They're sheep." The courtroom gasped so loud it sounded like thunder. Fans online couldn't believe it. The same man they had defended for years, now allegedly calling them sheep. One viral post screamed, "This is the ultimate betrayal. We made him rich, and this is how he sees us." Drake tried to yell, "Those aren't real. That's fake." But it was too late. The screenshots had already gone viral, plastered across every timeline, every story, every feed, and then just when people thought the reveals had reached their peak, Kendrick dropped the ultimate dagger. "Ladies and gentlemen," Kendrick said slowly, "this isn't just about lies. It's about power." Drake hasn't just been lying to fans. He's been lying to the industry, using money, influence, and intimidation to silence people. And I'm here to make sure their voices are finally heard. He gestured toward the back of the courtroom. Heads turned. And out of nowhere, another figure stood up. It was none other than Pusha T. The room exploded like a bomb had gone off. Fans screamed, lawyers scrambled, reporters nearly tripped over themselves trying to capture the moment. Drake's face drained of all color. Pusha T smiled coldly and walked to the front. Drake thought the beef was over. Pusha said, "But I never stopped digging. And what I found? Let's just say Kendrick isn't the only one with receipts." Boom. Two of Drake's most relentless rivals, Kendrick Lamar and Pusha T, had joined forces. The unthinkable had happened. But the shockwaves didn't stop with fans. The music industry erupted. Artists who had once played it safe started picking sides. J. Cole posted a cryptic story. Truth always wins in the end. Fans immediately took it as a silent cosign for Kendrick. Meek Mill tweeted a row of laughing emojis, no caption needed, which set the internet ablaze with speculation that he'd been waiting years for this. Even Nicki Minaj, long rumored to have a complicated history with Drake, liked a tweet that read, "Drake's empire built on lies is crumbling before our eyes." Screenshots of that went viral instantly, and then came the bombshell reactions from industry legends Snoop Dogg went live on Instagram, sipping wine and shaking his head. "Man, Drizzy, cooked. That judge frying him like Sunday dinner." And Kendrick, "That boy cold-blooded. He brought the facts." This might be the end for Champagne Papi. The live peaked at nearly 1 million viewers. Eminem, usually silent in these feuds, dropped a cryptic post on X. Sometimes the loudest ones got the weakest foundations. Fans erupted, interpreting it as another dagger in Drake's coffin. Meanwhile, the mainstream press latched onto the story. CNN ran the headline, "Drake faces career crisis as courtroom bombshells explode." Rolling Stone dropped an emergency cover story online, "The Fall of a King." Inside Drake's legal and cultural meltdown, TMZ stationed reporters outside the courthouse, catching clips of fans chanting Kendrick's name while burning fake OVO merch in the street. But it wasn't just celebrities and fans. Brands were panicking too. Insiders leaked that one major endorsement deal had already been paused until further notice. A luxury clothing line quietly deleted its collab announcement with Drake from Instagram. One anonymous executive allegedly told Billboard, "Nobody wants to attach themselves to a sinking ship." This case is poison, and as the fallout spread, the memes got nastier. Photoshopped pictures of Drake behind bars flooded timelines with captions like "Certified Convict Boy" and "Views." From the cell, others spliced courtroom footage with clips of Kendrick's diss tracks, painting him as the prophet who warned us all along. But the ugliest reaction came from within Drake's own fanbase. Private group chats leaked where diehard supporters admitted they couldn't defend him anymore. One message read, "We stood by him through everything." But this, the emails, the sheep comment, "I'm done." Screenshots of those private meltdowns went viral, symbolizing a fanbase divided and breaking apart. Even worse, whispers started surfacing that labels were discussing contingency plans. What happens if Drake's empire collapses entirely? Would they pull his future projects? Cancel tours? Rework contracts? Nothing was confirmed, but the speculation alone had fans screaming. And yet, through all this noise, Kendrick and Pusha remained calm. Kendrick didn't flood socials with taunts. He didn't post victory laps. He simply let the truth sink in. Fans dubbed it the silence of a king. Pusha, on the other hand, posted one cryptic Instagram story, a photo of himself with a caption, "We warned you." The public was stunned. The industry was split. And Drake was left dangling over the edge of a cliff with nowhere safe to land. But just when the world thought the story had peaked, another whisper began to spread. Another leak. Something even bigger than emails, audio, or group chats. Something so dangerous, so final. It threatened not only Drake's reputation, but his freedom. And that's where the final twist was about to strike. The courtroom had already been torn apart by Kendrick and Pusha's revelations. The judge was exhausted, Drake's lawyers were drowning, and the gallery buzzed like a live wire. But just when the dust looked ready to settle, the final blow landed, a revelation so catastrophic it didn't just question Drake's reputation. It questioned his freedom. It began when Kendrick leaned into the microphone, his tone sharper than ever. "We've talked about lies. We've talked about betrayal. But now, it's time to talk about crimes." The room froze. Drake's head shot up, eyes wide in terror. His lawyers jumped to their feet instantly. "Objection." One shouted, "This is out of scope." The judge raised her gavel. "Sit down. I want to hear this." Kendrick pulled out another document, this one stamped with official seals. The gallery craned their necks. Reporters nearly fell out of their chairs. Kendrick's voice rang like a hammer. Drake's team didn't just fabricate narratives. They moved money. They hid transactions. They tampered with evidence. And I have proof that federal investigators are already circling. Gasps erupted. Drake clutched the table, shaking his head violently. No, this is a setup. But his face told another story, pure panic. The judge narrowed her eyes. Are you saying what I think you're saying, Mr. Lamar? Kendrick didn't flinch. I'm saying this case is bigger than hip-hop. This is about fraud. This is about obstruction. And the feds don't play. The gallery exploded in chaos. Fans screamed. Reporters sprinted outside to broadcast the update, and Twitter detonated into madness. The hashtag Drake arrest next trended instantly, with millions of posts speculating that Drake could be indicted. And then, like clockwork, TMZ broke the news. Federal sources confirm interest in Drake's case following courtroom revelations. The reaction was instant. TikTok edits showed Drake's mugshot photoshopped with captions like "from charts to charges." Instagram stories flooded with free Drizzy and lock him up debates. Fans split in half, some crying, some laughing, some gleefully chanting Kendrick's name. But the twist didn't end there. Because just as the courtroom tried to regain order, Pusha T stepped forward one last time. We warned him. Years ago. He thought it was just rap beef. He thought it was just bars. But now, the walls are closing in. The room roared again. Drake sat frozen, his once unshakable image shattered, his future hanging by a thread. His lawyers begged for recess, begged for time, begged for mercy. But the judge made it clear, this is far from over. And that's when the cliffhanger struck. As cameras flashed and chaos erupted, whispers spread through the gallery. Someone claimed they'd seen federal agents waiting outside the courthouse. Reporters scrambled, live streams spiked, and fans screamed into their phones. Is Drake about to be taken into custody right now? The judge adjourned abruptly, slamming the gavel, leaving everyone on edge. Drake bolted from the room surrounded by security, covering his face as reporters shouted questions. Kendrick and Pusha, calm and collected, walked out slowly, almost savoring the moment. The internet went into meltdown. Twitter timelines screamed, Drake might be arrested tonight. TikTok theories spread like wildfire. The feds already flipped someone in his camp. YouTube live streams racked up millions of views as fans debated if this was the end of Drake's career or his. Freedom, and yet, no confirmation came. The whispers hung heavy, the suspense unbearable. Was Drake walking into the arms of federal agents? Or would he somehow escape the tightening noose? One thing was certain, this wasn't over. The drama had reached its peak, but the story was just beginning, as Kendrick said while leaving the courthouse, looking directly into a reporter's camera. This is only chapter 1. Boom, cliffhanger. So now the question isn't if Drake's empire is collapsing, it's how fast. A judge has cooked his legal team in front of the world. Kendrick Lamar has exposed his deepest lies. Pusha T has dragged out the receipts. And whispers of federal involvement are already circling. But the cliffhanger we're all waiting on is the one thing nobody can confirm. Is Drake about to be arrested, or will he somehow slip through the cracks one more time? And that's where you come in. I want to hear from you, the people watching this unfold in real time. Do you believe Drake's career is officially over? Or do you think this is just another chapter in the long history of hip-hop feuds that he'll find a way to spin into his next album? Drop your thoughts.